Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here today for another video on my favorite off-grid light sources. I usually do one of these every year because I'm always adding something new and different and finding things I like better, and some of the old ways I still like and use on a regular basis. So first let me explain, some people wrongly assume that we are completely off-grid. No, we are not. Though we do have a solar power setup, we are only partially off-grid. So we use both public power as well as solar power, but we also have many other ways to do things that do not require any type of electricity, be it from a fuel generator, the solar power, or even public power. And this is important, especially if you're one who cannot afford to run out and buy a generator, let alone a full solar power setup. Now, these are things that we've built on and added to for many years. So it wasn't like we just suddenly spent a whole bunch of money on a solar setup. We started little bits at a time, and that's how we got it done. But if you're not to that point yet to even get started, let alone have a full setup, I wanted to talk more today on methods that are completely off-grid that are affordable to everyone. So I will start off by saying that my main source of lighting throughout the whole year is our string lights, and I've shown it in many videos, and I'll put a few pictures here that I have all throughout the house, and those are all LED lights. I love them because they draw so little power. So even if you do have a generator, the great thing about having those lights in place, even if you use, like during the winter time, we're more apt to plug them into the public power, through the rest of the year we can plug them into our solar power. But if you at least have a generator, they're really easy to just plug into a generator, and they're already in place all throughout the house, so you don't have to set them up. But now let's get on to the other sources that don't require any kind of electricity, and things that we tend to fall back on quite a bit even when there isn't a power outage. And so the number one thing I want to talk about is this lantern right here, because I didn't mention this in my previous videos on lighting, though I did do a separate video just on this. So basically this is also going to be an update on this. This is an LED light, as you can see. I love this lantern, and I wanted to update people because I have 6 of these now. I just bought 2 more because I've been so happy with them and how well they've worked for us. Even this last summer when we had family camping out at our other piece of property for our youngest son's wedding, well, I gave my niece and nephew each one of these to use while they were here, and they carried those things everywhere. So because they actually camped out in tents. They didn't have an RV or anything. So I wanted them to be able to have some safe sort of lighting that they could carry around, and they love them. And no damage to them. They didn't break. They still work great. And I love the fact that on these particular ones, you can adjust the brightness setting. A lot of times when I'm using this in the house, if I need it really bright, I'll turn it up all the way. But most of the time, I usually set it at about the medium range for the light when we need just that little bit of extra, and our string lights just don't seem to be cutting it. And I don't want to turn on the public power lights. So I love these. I will link to these below. Now, another one I really like that I bought a few years ago are these little LED candles. Now, they don't put out a whole lot of light, so they're not going to be something you're going to want to use to light up a whole room. And you just twist them. They actually are wax on the outside, so they look like a real candle. And then you just twist the base to turn them off. Some of these do come with timers. I really wasn't interested in the one with timers. I just wanted ones I could turn on when I needed them. Now, these are ones we might use more for either mood lighting or for when the power goes out. These things are perfect for putting in the bathroom. They're safer than these little tiny oil lanterns like this for leaving on all night, because they're LED and they last a very long time, and they provide just enough light to make a good night light. So in our back bathroom, it makes a perfect light source. So if we have a power outage, then I can turn those little candles on, and they provide just enough light for people to be able to get in there, use the restroom, wash their hands and everything. And you'll see in some of these pictures that I use both the oil lanterns and this lantern with these plant hooks. I purchased a bunch of them. I was able to get a good deal by buying it as a set. I think there was 10. And so we hang those these lanterns throughout the house on those hooks because they hold the lantern away from the wall just far enough so even when we're using the oil lanterns, it's totally safe. And so the nice thing about those is if you just need to quickly turn a light on, it's as simple as that. You just click. Now, by the way, again, a rechargeable battery, which also comes with a charging cord, and I don't have to charge them up every day. Like those lanterns, they lasted the whole weekend without needing to be charged that I let my niece and nephew borrow. So for the safe method, if you don't want to worry about fuel because you don't want to have to stock the fuel, you don't have to worry about the safety of having a flame or fuel going in the house, as well as the smell. Some people can't handle the smell. Like kerosene can be very strong and it can make some people sick. And we use, by the way, we use Clean Heat, which is the one I would recommend. It says it's odorless. It's not entirely odorless. It definitely has far less odor to it than your kerosene does. So we prefer this, and that's what we use. I recommend looking at your local hardware store. You can usually get the better price there than buying from Amazon, at least last I looked. When I looked, it cost twice as much on Amazon. But here in our local store, this is usually around $12, $13. I don't know what it is now because we have a pretty good supply of it. Now, the smaller oil lanterns are usually hard to find. All the ones I have quite a few of them. I bought them all at garage sales, secondhand. In fact, this one I tend to show quite a bit because you could tell it looked like it had been made in the 70s. It had this beautiful little glass base, but the glass has a peg sticking out of the bottom because it was inserted into this fake wooden box. So it was basically pressed wood, fiberboard, that had wood-looking paper put over it, and it was cheap looking and ugly. So Patrick took that off and fabricated this walnut base for it so it would look a lot nicer, and is actually real wood. And that sits on our dining room table. It gets used every time there's a power outage, or if we just have people over and we're sitting at the table and we want some lower mood lighting and we don't want to turn on the brighter overhead lights. So this one stays in one of the bathrooms. I have one in each bathroom, but anymore now I rely on these. In fact, this one now is the one I turn to in my other bathroom, the main, what I call the main bathroom. And these are basically garden lights. So they're not super bright, but again, these are a good night light and they can last for a very long time on the batteries. These are something that I use quite often, and even though they're garden lights, they're really a great option for using indoors because they're totally safe. A lot of my oil lanterns like this, my bigger ones, I have also picked up secondhand, but these ones here I bought brand new. Now these are the Furhan, the German lanterns. I love these lanterns and they come in a lot of colors. I'm going to link to the website that I got these at, because if you look, they have like, I forget what it's called, but you can buy some of their, like these ones you can get about a $10 off, at least I did when I bought mine, because there might be a slight imperfection on the tank, like a little dent. And the ones I bought like that, I bought 3 that way. I bought these 2 first, then I went and found they had those, so I bought 3 more, and that's the 2 black and the red, and they just had a really minor imperfection on the tank that you don't even notice without looking closely. And so that knocked $10 off the price, because these are more expensive. They're typically around $50, at least they were when I bought them. So those ones are a little bit more expensive, but they're my favorites as far as buying a brand new lantern goes. But if you watch secondhand stores, you can find all kinds of oil lamps, even gas lanterns. We have quite a few gas lanterns that are typically used for camping. Those we pull out if there's a power outage and we really need some bright light. That's a nice thing about those, but we don't use them that often. Only if we absolutely need some really bright light because we're doing something that requires that, but most of the time any of this other lighting suits us quite well. And then some other things that we use, not as often, but we do have, and I do like having them, are always regular candles. We have candles of all shapes and sizes, and most of those we have also picked up at garage sales. Brand new candles. People would buy all these candles and then never use them, never light them even once, and then stick them in a garage sale for cheap. So we have tons of candles. The ones that are ugly, we melt those down and use them for fire starters, and then the other ones we keep on hand for emergency light source. if we absolutely have to fall back on that. Normally I really like candles, but now that they've been coming out with nicer, more subdued looking, not so white light LED lanterns and candles, I fall back on those. You got to also consider that if you're going with LED lights, which I do recommend starting with, you also got to remember if it's a replaceable battery, you can get rechargeable batteries and charge them up yourself. Again, this one, like I said, is a rechargeable battery. And by the way, I had bought, when I wanted to get replacement batteries, because even rechargeable batteries after a while, they do wear out, I wanted to make sure I had some replacements, and I was having a heck of a time finding that particular battery. But what I ended up doing by searching, I found that I could buy for a really good price a pretty cheap flashlight. It's actually a decent flashlight that came with 8 of those batteries. 1 flashlight, 8 batteries. So I bought 2 sets of those flashlights, so I have plenty of batteries as backups for these lanterns in case any of them ever go bad. But I think it will be a long time before they go bad. I think I'm going to see them last for quite a long time. But these are things you have to consider if you're going off of anything that's going to rely on batteries. Make sure you have backup batteries, because no matter what you do, you got to have some kind of fuel source. So you're either going to need like candles, they will burn up over time. You don't have to have anything else to run them, but eventually they're going to be gone. So you're going to need backup candles. You're going to need backup fuel for your lanterns, be they gas or oil, and then backup batteries for all your battery operated things, even if they're rechargeable like this one is here, because they do wear out. So these are all things you have to keep in mind. Now, my personal opinion, through the years, even though I love all my fuel operated lanterns and do use them, I think if you're just getting started in backup light sources, look at going for the LED lights. It's going to be the safest. You don't have to worry about fumes. You don't have to worry about fires with those. It's the safest way to go. And they're so easy to turn on. Just flick the switch or turn the knob depending on what kind it is. Now, some other really good options that don't require you stocking up on any kind of fuel are solar lights. People do this a lot. Around here, it's not the best because solar lights, typically you're keeping them outside. And around here, they just don't last long. But if you're keeping the solar lights on hand specifically for power outages, well, you're still going to want to keep them outside or in a place where they're going to collect plenty of sun so that when the power goes out, you can bring them inside or bring them in from a window wherever you're keeping them, so that that's an immediate light that can usually last all night long. But around here, solar lights are only going to last as long as the amount of sun we're getting during the day. So a lot of times, that was the other thing with our solar lights. In the summertime, it was great. They'd last all night long. But in the wintertime, they got so little light during the day, and then the night was so long that they didn't last very long. But you might not need them to last all night long anyway. But that is still a great option. And then, of course, you have other types of camp lights that you can get that are all LED based. I have several different ones. Most of them were gifted to us, and I do like them and I do use them. Those ones, though, I'm less likely to use to light the house as I am these things, because they don't have that same homey feel to them as these do, but they're still a great idea to have those on hand. And of course, don't forget flashlights, because you're going to need something you can carry around. But then again, you can carry these around without fear of burning yourself. And then other lights that we have around the house are like your different types of stick-on lights. So we have 2 different kinds. Initially, I bought the little button ones, and those are great, especially if in a place where you don't need tons of light. I actually keep one in a lower cabinet that's a really big cabinet, and sometimes I have to use it just so I can see in there. But I did put them in various places around the house just to have them as emergency light, and usually putting them next to a light switch. So you normally are used to flipping on the switch. Even when the power goes out, it's automatic. But if you have something like that right next to your light switch, you still have something quickly you can use. So I have one in each bedroom, one in each bathroom. But then when they came out with the light switch type lights, those are brighter. Those are definitely better for emergencies, and they can light up a whole room. In fact, this room is 1,100 square feet. And those who are new might not realize this is my old dance studio, martial arts studio. So that is why it's this really big room. But since I've retired from that, it has since been converted to an alternate dining room and a big family game room slash work area. So I have a video just on that. I'll link to that in the description box down below. But anyway, I say all that because I have one of those switch lights over there next to the door coming into this room. So if the power's out, I can just switch that on and it really does light up this whole big room. Plenty enough for us to see what we need to do in here. And then again, I have the lanterns, but we're usually not hanging out in here, especially during power outages. But a lot of times we need to come and go because this is also our business area where we store a lot of our stuff that goes up on our store. So it is nice having that to be able to just switch it on rather than climbing up and lighting the oil lanterns, which, by the way, we do have hung up high because we put those in while I was still teaching class and I needed them up out of the way of the dance students and the martial arts students, but needed them in here in case the power went out during class in the wintertime, which happened to us quite often. Power going out right in the middle of class and it's completely black and you got a room full of screaming little girls. So it was great to have ways that I could quickly light up the room and finish out the class. So anyway, that is what I use. I really love the fact that more and more we're seeing a lot of affordable LED lights that can work well for people in such situations. And they can just even be a nice addition. This is another reason why I like this one over here I keep talking about, because it just looks nice. So even if the power's not out, you might just like using this light anyway, especially with the adjustable brightness of it. You can get it plenty bright that it'll suit your needs even if you're reading a book. So go ahead and share with us down below what your favorite off-grid lights are. Do you use like the more old-fashioned lights like your fuel lanterns and your candles, or are you more apt to use the LED lights, or like us, do you have just all various kinds? Because personally I think that's the best way to go, is have various different types that you can fall back on no matter what happens. And by the way, I'll be doing another video, hoping if I don't shoot it today, I'll shoot it in a couple days, so you should be seeing it coming out shortly after this one, about power outages in general, just some tips to how to prepare yourself for such things. And I'm going to again try to be focusing on the more frugal ways that you can go about that if you cannot afford to buy a generator or have a solar setup. So be watching for that video to come out soon. And don't forget to read the comments down below, as well as check the links I'll be putting in the description box down below. All right, well, thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.